The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It had no country. It had no flag. It belonged to everyone and no one. They called it Corn 7, and it was the only place in the galaxy where enemies could walk past each other without drawing weapons. Taiho wiped the sweat from his face and pushed another cargo crate onto his ship. His muscles hurt. His back hurt. Everything hurt. But this was his life now. He was a hauler. He moved things from one place to another, and the universe paid him just enough to keep moving. His ship was old and small. The paint was faded. The engine made strange sounds. But it was his. He had worked 15 years to buy it, and he loved it like a child loves a broken toy. Taiho, we have a problem. Hannah appeared in the cargo bay door. She was his navigator. She was also his best friend. They had grown up together on Earth, in a small town near the mountains. When Taiho left for the stars, she came with him. What kind of problem? He asked. The kind that has too many teeth. Taiho walked to the cargo bay window and looked out at the station. He saw them immediately. Veshrak soldiers. At least 20 of them, walking through the market like they owned everything they saw. The Veshrak were monsters. There was no other word for them. They stood 3 meters tall. Their skin was gray and thick like stone. Their eyes were yellow and cold. They had claws that could cut through metal and teeth that could crush bone. They had built their empire by eating everything that stood in their way. Sometimes they ate those things in the most real sense. What are they doing here? Taiho asked quietly. I do not know, but I do not like it. Suho came up behind them. He was the engineer. He was short and round and always had grease on his hands. He looked at the Veshrak and made a sound of disgust. Predators, he said. They smell blood somewhere. The 3 humans watched as the Veshrak moved through the station. Other species moved away from them. A group of small traders nearly fell over themselves trying to clear a path. No one wanted the attention of a Veshrak. Their attention usually ended in death. But the Veshrak were not the only dangerous species in the galaxy. Taiho saw them on the other side of the market. Rivik. They were small, only reaching up to a human's chest. They had thick fur and short legs and faces that looked almost cute. But their eyes were black and empty, and their small hands held weapons that could burn holes through starship hulls. The galaxy had a name for the Rivik. They called them honey badgers. It was an earth animal, small and seemingly weak. But the honey badger feared nothing. It would attack creatures 10 times its size. It would fight until its last breath. It never ran. It never surrendered. The Rivik were the same. Their empire was smaller than the Veshrak Empire, but no one wanted to fight them. Wars against the Rivik never ended. They just kept coming. They just kept fighting. They would burn their own worlds before letting an enemy take them. For 50 years, the Veshrak and the Rivik had stared at each other across the galaxy. Neither was willing to pay the price of total war. So they existed in a cold peace, each waiting for the other to show weakness. Korinth-7 sat in the space between their empires. It was neutral ground, sacred ground. The one place where the 2 species did not kill each other on sight. Something is wrong, Hannah said. Her eyes moved between the 2 groups. They are both here. At the same time? That is not normal. It is not normal. She was right. Taiho could feel the tension in the air. It was like standing between 2 storms. The wind was still, but you knew that soon everything would break apart. We should leave, Suho said. Finish loading and go. Whatever is happening here, it is not our problem. Taiho nodded slowly. Suho was right. They were humans. In the grand story of the galaxy, humans were nothing. They had only left Earth 200 years ago. They had no great empire. They had no powerful weapons. They had no biological advantages. Other species looked at humans and saw soft creatures with short lives and fragile bodies. Most species did not even bother learning human names. What was the point? Humans would be dead in 80 years anyway. Taiho had accepted this. He did not dream of glory or power. He just wanted to fly his ship, pay his bills, and maybe see a few beautiful things before he died. That was enough. That had to be enough. "Start the engine warm-up," he told Suho. "I will get the last crates." He walked back into the cargo bay and grabbed the nearest crate. It was heavy. His arm shook as he lifted it. A Veshrak could have thrown it with one hand. A Rivik would have found some clever machine to move it. But Taiho was human. He had only his body and his will. He loaded the crate and went back for another. Through the window, he could see the station market growing more crowded. More Veshrak soldiers. More Rivik traders. The two groups were circling each other now, like animals waiting to fight. Taiho did not know what would happen. He did not want to know. He just wanted to finish his work and fly away before the storm broke. But the universe rarely cares what we want. And sometimes, the storm finds us no matter how fast we run. The shot came from nowhere. One moment, the market was tense but quiet. The next moment, green light flashed across the space, and a Rivik trader fell to the ground. The body did not move again. Taiho dropped his cargo crate. The sound of it hitting the floor was lost in the screaming that followed. Veshrak soldiers raised their weapons. Rivik traders pulled out hidden guns. For one terrible second, everyone aimed at everyone else. Then the firing started. The market became a war zone. Taiho threw himself behind a metal pillar. Plasma bolts burned past his head. He could smell the heat. He could hear bodies falling. Somewhere, a child was crying. "Hana, Suho." He shouted into his communicator. "Stay on the ship. Do not come out." "Taiho, what is happening?" Hana's voice crackled with fear. "I do not know. Just stay down." He pressed his back against the pillar and tried to think. The fighting was moving away from him. The Veshrak were pushing forward, their larger bodies and heavier weapons giving them an advantage. The Rivik were falling back, but they were still fighting. They always fought. Taiho saw his chance. The path to his ship was almost clear. He could run. He could make it. He could fly away and forget any of this had happened. Then he heard the crying again. Thought it was coming from behind a broken food stall, just 10 meters away. Taiho looked toward the sound. He saw small feet, Rivik feet. A child, hiding in the rubble. A Veshrak soldier saw it too. The soldier was huge, even by Veshrak standards. His armor was black and covered with marks of rank. He moved toward the food stall with slow, heavy steps. His weapon was raised. His yellow eyes showed nothing but cold purpose. Taiho did not think. His body moved before his mind could stop it. He ran. He crossed the 10 meters in seconds. He threw himself between the soldier and the child. His arms spread wide. His heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his throat. The soldier stopped. His yellow eyes blinked once, twice. Then his face twisted into something that might have been amusement. "Move, small creature," the soldier said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "This does not concern you." Taiho did not move. I said move. The soldier raised his weapon higher, or die with the animal. Taiho looked at the weapon. It was a plasma rifle. One shot would burn a hole through his chest. One shot would end everything he had ever been or would ever be. Behind him, he could hear the child whimpering. It was a small sound, a scared sound. A sound that reminded him of his little sister, long ago, crying in the dark after a nightmare. "No," Taiho said. The soldier's eyes widened. "No? I will not move. The entire market seemed to grow quiet. Fighting continued in the distance, but here, in this small space, time itself seemed to stop. Dozens of eyes turned toward the scene. Veshrak, Rivik, traders and refugees from 100 different worlds. All of them watched the small human standing before the giant soldier. "You choose death," the soldier said. "It was not a question. I choose to stand where I am needed." Heavy footsteps approached. More Veshrak soldiers gathered behind the first one. One of them was different. His armor was red instead of black. His eyes were colder than the others. When he spoke, the other soldiers became very still. "What is this?" The red-armored Veshrak asked. "A human, Commander Thal. It will not move." Commander Thal looked at Taiho. He studied him the way a scientist might study a strange insect. Then he laughed. It was a terrible sound, like breaking glass. "A human," Thal said, "standing against me. Do you know what I am, small creature? Do you know what my people are?" "I know," Taiho said. His voice was steady, though he did not know how. "I know exactly what you are. Then you know you cannot win." "Maybe, but I am still standing here." Thal's laughter died. Something changed in his eyes. The amusement was gone. In its place was something else. Something that looked almost like respect, mixed with cold anger. "Your species is weak," Thal said. "You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You die from the smallest wounds. You live for such a short time that we do not bother learning your names. What makes you think you can stand against the Veshrak?" Taiho swallowed hard. Fear was screaming inside him, telling him to run, to hide, to survive. But his feet would not move. His body would not obey. "I do not know," he said honestly. "But I am standing anyway." Behind Taiho, Hana and Suho appeared. They had left the ship. They held cargo tools in their hands. Wrenches, cutting torches, useless things against plasma rifles. But they stood beside him anyway. "3 humans," Thal said softly, "against the Veshrak Empire." "It seems that way," Taiho replied. Thal was silent for a long moment. The market held its breath. "Very well," the commander finally said. "You have made your choice. Now you will live with it, or die with it." He turned to his soldiers. "Lock down the station. No ships in or out. These humans want to play hero. Let them see what that costs." The soldiers moved. Alarms began to ring. Heavy doors slammed shut across the station. Taiho felt his stomach drop. What had he done? What had he started? Behind him, small hands grabbed his leg. He looked down at the Rivik child. She was young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Her fur was gray and soft. Her black eyes were full of tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Taiho picked her up. She was lighter than he expected. Her small body trembled against his chest. "What is your name?" he asked her. "Bora." "Okay, Bora, stay with me. I will keep you safe." It was a promise he was not sure he could keep, but he made it anyway, because sometimes that is all a person can do. The cargo bay was not meant to be a fortress. It was meant to hold boxes and crates and all the boring things that moved between stars. But now it was all they had. Taiho sat on a crate and looked at the people around him. Hana was working on a computer panel, her fingers moving fast. Suho was welding metal plates together, building something that looked like a wall. Little Bora sat in the corner, wrapped in a blanket, eating a food bar that Hana had given her. And there was one more person. A Rivik woman named Kurin. She had appeared at their door an hour after the lockdown began. Her clothes were torn. Her arm was bleeding. But her black eyes were sharp and clear. "They are looking for me," she had said. "I have something they want." "What?" Taiho had asked. "Information. The location of an old weapon. Something the ancient species left behind. long before any of us walked the stars. The Veshrak want it. They think it will give them the power to finally destroy my people. Taiho had looked at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and let her in. Why? Corinne had asked, confused. You do not know me. You owe me nothing. If they find me here, they will kill all of you. I know, Taiho had replied, but I already made my choice. One more person does not change anything. Now Corinne sat across from him, watching the humans work. Her face showed many things. Confusion, curiosity, maybe a little hope. Your species is strange, she said. So I have been told. You are not fighters. You have no great army. You have no powerful ships. Yet here you are, standing against an empire. Taiho laughed softly. It was not a happy sound. When you say it like that, it sounds very stupid. It is stupid. It is the most stupid thing I have ever seen. Corin paused. But it is also something else. Something I do not have a word for? Crazy? Suho suggested from across the room. No, not crazy. Crazy people do not know what they are doing. You know exactly what you are doing. You know you will probably die. But you do it anyway. Corin shook her head. My people fight because we do not know how to stop. You fight because someone has to, Hana said quietly, not looking up from her computer. Yes, that, I do not understand it. Taiho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Veshrak soldiers moving through the station. They were setting up positions, preparing for an attack. They were in no hurry. They knew their prey had nowhere to run. When I was young, Taiho said, my grandmother told me stories. Stories about our people, long ago. We come from a small piece of land on Earth, a place called Korea. It is not a big place. Mountains on one side, ocean on the other. And for thousands of years, larger powers tried to take it from us. He turned to face Corin. Empires came. Armies came. They were always bigger than us, stronger than us. They had more soldiers, more weapons, more everything. And sometimes they won. Sometimes they conquered us, occupied us, tried to erase us. But, Corin asked, but we are still here. Taiho smiled, and there was something fierce in it. Every time they thought they had broken us, we got back up. Every time they thought we were finished, we started again. We bent, but we did not break. We fell, but we got up. We survived. That is just stubbornness. Maybe. My grandmother called it something else. She called it the fire that does not die. She said it was in our blood, in our bones. She said, as long as one of us was still breathing, the fire would keep burning. Corin was silent for a long moment. Then she looked at little Bora, still eating her food bar in the corner. You are doing this for her, Corin said. A Rivik child you do not know. I am doing this because it is the right thing to do. Bora is just... She reminded me of that. The computer beeped. Hannah looked up, her face pale. They're coming, she said. Thal has given us 1 hour to surrender. If we do not, they will attack. How many soldiers? Taiho asked. At least 30. Suho laughed bitterly. 30 Veshrak warriors against 2 cargo haulers, 1 navigator, 1 trade delegate, and a child. Those are very bad numbers. Then we need to change the numbers, Taiho said. He walked to the cargo bay door and opened it. Outside, in the corridor, station residents were moving past. Most of them were trying to hide, trying to stay out of the way, trying to survive. Taiho stepped into the corridor. Listen to me, he called out. His voice was loud and clear. I know you are scared. I am scared too. The Veshrak think they own this station now. They think they can do whatever they want because they are bigger and stronger than the rest of us. People stopped. Eyes turned toward him. Maybe they are right, Taiho continued. Maybe we cannot win. Maybe they will kill all of us. But I'm going to stand anyway. I am going to stand because I am tired of running. I am tired of bending my head. I am tired of pretending the power is the same thing as right. He took a deep breath. I am not asking you to fight. I am not asking you to die. I am just telling you that if you want to stand with me, there is room. If you are tired of being afraid, there is a place for you. If you have ever wanted to look at a monster and say, no more, now is your chance. The corridor was silent. Then Rivik stepped forward. He was old, his fur gray and thin. He carried a plasma torch in his hand. My name is Duri, he said. I am a mechanic. I do not know how to fight, but I know how to burn things. I will stand with you. Another figure moved from the shadows. This one made everyone gasp. It was a Veshrak. Old, scarred, missing one eye. He carried an ancient rifle that looked like it had seen 100 battles. My name is Osik, the old Veshrak said. His voice was rough with age. I served my people for 60 years. I did terrible things in their name. Things I can never take back. But maybe I can do one good thing before I die. I will stand with you. One by one, others came forward. A trader from a species Taiho did not recognize. A young woman who worked in the station's medical bay. A refugee who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. They were not soldiers. They were not warriors. They were just people. Ordinary people who had found something inside themselves that they did not know was there. Taiho looked at them. His heart was full of something he could not name. Thank you, he said softly. All of you. Suho appeared beside him. Wow, the engineer said, looking at their small group of volunteers. The numbers are still bad. But they are a little better now. Taiho nodded. Then let us get to work. We have less than an hour. And they did. The attack came in the dark. Taiho had expected it. The Veshrak were hunters. They liked to strike when their prey could not see. When fear was strongest. When hope was weakest. But Taiho and his people were ready. The first group of Veshrak soldiers came down the main corridor. They moved with confidence. They did not expect real resistance. What could a handful of traitors and refugees do against trained warriors? Then the floor exploded. Suho had spent the last hour placing charges in the floor panels. Small explosives meant for mining work. Not powerful enough to kill a Veshrak, but powerful enough to throw them off balance. Powerful enough to slow them down. 3 soldiers fell. 2 more stumbled. And before they could recover, Duri stepped from the shadows with his plasma torch. He was old. He was slow. But his hands were steady, and he knew exactly where a Veshrak's armor was weakest. 2 more soldiers went down, screaming. Fall back. Someone shouted. The remaining soldiers retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Taiho allowed himself a small breath of relief. The first wave was broken, but he knew it would not be the last. They will come again, Osik said. The old Veshrak warrior stood beside him, his rifle ready. And they will come harder. I know. You are not afraid? Taiho laughed bitterly. I am very afraid. I am so afraid I can barely think. But being afraid does not mean I have to stop. Osik made a sound that might have been a laugh. Humans, he said, shaking his head. Such strange creatures. The second wave came 20 minutes later. This time, they came from 2 directions. 10 soldiers from the front. 10 more from a side passage that Hana had tried to block with cargo crates. The fighting was brutal. Taiho saw the young medical worker go down, her shoulder torn by a plasma bolt. He saw Dori fall back, his plasma torch knocked from his hands. He saw Osik take a hit to the chest and keep fighting anyway. blood pouring from the wound. But they held. Somehow, they held. Hannah had hacked into the station's environmental systems. She turned off the lights in the corridors, then turned them on again at random moments. The Veshrak were hunters, but they hunted by sight. In the flashing darkness, they stumbled and cursed. Suho collapsed the ceiling behind the rear group, cutting off their retreat. Then he sealed the doors, trapping them in a small space where their numbers meant nothing. The remaining soldiers fled, but they left 5 of their own behind this time. 5 Veshrak warriors, defeated by people they had called weak. Taiho leaned against a wall, breathing hard. His whole body hurt. He had been cut by claws, burned by near misses, and thrown against metal walls. He could feel blood running down his face from somewhere, but he was alive. They were all alive. Taiho. Hannah's voice came through his communicator. It was thin and scared. He is coming. Taiho did not need to ask who. Commander Thal walked through the smoke and debris like he was walking through a garden. His red armor glowed in the dim light. His yellow eyes burned with cold fire. In his hands, he carried a blade as long as Taiho's body. Enough games, Thal said. His voice echoed through the corridor. Enough hiding behind tricks and traps. Face me, human. Face me, or watch everyone you have tried to save die, one by one. Taiho stepped forward. His body screamed at him to stop. His mind told him he was going to die, but his feet kept moving. I am here, he said. Thal looked at him, studied him. You are hurt. You can barely stand, and you still come to face me. Yes. Why? Taiho thought about the question. He thought about Bora hiding in the cargo bay. He thought about Hannah and Suo, who had followed him across the stars. He thought about all the people who had stood with him tonight, people who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Because if I do not, Taiho said, then who will? Thal made a sound that might have been surprise. Then he raised his blade. Very well. Let us see what you are made of, human. The fight was not fair. It was never going to be fair. Thal was 3 times Taiho's size. He was stronger, faster, better trained. He had been killing since before Taiho's grandparents were born. His blade moved like water, smooth and deadly. Taiho dodged the first strike. He barely avoided the second. The third caught him across the arm, cutting deep. He fell back, blood spraying across the floor. Thal laughed. Is that all? I expected more. Taiho got up. Thal struck again. This time, the blade caught Taiho's side. More blood. More pain. Taiho fell to his knees. Stay down, Thal said. Die with what little dignity you have left. Taiho got up. Thal's eyes narrowed. He struck again, and again, and again. Each blow should have ended the fight. Each blow drew blood. But every time Taiho fell, he rose again. His legs shook. His vision blurred. But he would not stay down. What are you? Thal hissed. There was something new in his voice now. Something that sounded almost like fear. Why do you not break? Taiho spat blood onto the floor. His lips pulled back in something that was half smile, half grimace. I am human. We do not break. We do not stop. We do not give up. He lifted his weapon. It was just a piece of metal, torn from a broken machine. It was not a proper blade. It was not designed for combat. But it was enough. My grandmother told me something once, Taiho said, his voice rough with pain. She said that our people survived because we understood one truth. It does not matter how many times you fall. It only matters that you get up one more time than they knock you down. He lunged forward. Thal was faster. Thal was stronger. Thal was better in every way that could be measured. But Taiho was human. And humans do not follow the rules that they should. The metal piece found a gap in Thal's armor, found the soft flesh beneath, found the place where even monsters can die. Thal looked down at the weapon in his chest. His yellow eyes went wide. How? He whispered. Tahoe fell to his knees, exhausted beyond anything he had ever known. I told you, he said quietly. I just had to get up one more time. Thal fell. The station shook with the weight of his body hitting the floor. And then there was silence. Tahoe stayed on his knees for a long moment. He was not sure he could get up again. He was not sure he wanted to, but then he heard a small voice. Tahoe? Bora was standing in the doorway. Her black eyes were full of tears. She ran toward him and wrapped her small arms around his neck. You did it, she whispered. Tahoe held her gently. His arms could barely move, but he managed to hold her. We did it, he corrected her. All of us, together. And for the first time in hours, Tahoe allowed himself to hope. The rescue ships arrived at dawn. Tahoe did not know how Hannah had done it. Somewhere in the chaos of the battle, she had found a way to send a signal. A call for help that traveled across the stars and found ears willing to listen. The ships were a mix of everything. Rivik patrol vessels, human cargo haulers, even a few traders from neutral species who had heard what was happening and decided they wanted to see it for themselves. When the doors opened and the soldiers poured in, they expected to find bodies. They expected to find death. They expected to find the usual end of a Veshrak siege. Instead, they found something else. They found Tahoe sitting in the cargo bay, covered in blood and bandages. Little Bora was asleep against his shoulder. Hannah was working on a computer, trying to restore the station systems. Suho was complaining about how long it would take to fix everything. And around them were the others. The survivors. The ones who had chosen to stand. The Rivik captain who led the rescue team was named Gina. She was small, even by Rivik standards, but her eyes were hard as stone. She looked at the scene before her and did not seem to believe what she was seeing. You won, she said. It was not a question, but she said it like one anyway. We survived, Tahoe corrected her. That is not quite the same thing. You killed Thal. You broke his force. You held this station against 30 Veshrak warriors. Gina shook her head slowly. That is more than surviving. That is impossible. And yet, here we are. Gina looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind the Rivik gave only to their greatest warriors. The Rivik do not forget, she said. What you did here, my people will remember. Tahoe did not know what to say. He was too tired to think clearly. So he just nodded and held Bora a little closer. In the days that followed, the story spread. It traveled on cargo ships and patrol vessels. It passed through space stations and trading posts. It reached the great halls of the Rivik Council and the dark chambers of the Veshrak Empire. Everywhere it went, it grew. Some people did not believe it. A human? Standing against the Veshrak? Killing one of their commanders? It had to be a lie. It had to be propaganda, but there were too many witnesses. Too many people who had seen it with their own eyes. Too many recordings from station cameras. That showed the truth. A human had stood between the Divans, Predator, and the Honey Badger, and had not moved. The Rivik Council sent a formal message to Earth. It was the first time they had ever contacted the human government directly. They wanted to talk. They wanted to understand. They wanted to know if there were more humans like Tahoe. The answer, of course, was yes. There were billions of them. The Veshrak Empire was quieter. They withdrew their forces from the Corinth sector without explanation. They sent no threats. They made no demands. They simply left. But in the private meetings of their war council, the generals spoke a new word. They spoke it with confusion. They spoke it with caution. Some of them even spoke it with fear. Human. On Corinth 7, life slowly returned to normal. The damage was repaired. The bodies were buried. The station opened its doors again, and traders began to flow through like they always had. Taiho stayed for a while. His ship needed repairs that would take weeks. And besides, he was not ready to leave yet. Bora stayed with him. She had no family left. Her parents had died in the first attack. She had no one in the universe except the strange human who had risked everything to save her. Are you going to keep her? Hana asked one day, watching Taiho teach Bora how to read a star map. She's not a pet, Taiho replied. But, yes, if she wants to stay, she can stay. Bora looked up at him with her big black eyes. I want to stay, she said firmly. Then you will stay. Suho grumbled something about feeding another mouth, but there was no real complaint in his voice. He was already building a small bed for her in the corner of the cargo bay. On the day they were finally ready to leave, Torin came to see them. The Rivik trade delegate had recovered from her wounds. She had been offered a place on a Rivik diplomatic ship, a position of honor. But she had not left yet. I wanted to thank you, she said to Taiho, and I wanted to ask you something. Ask? Why? Corin's eyes were intense. I have thought about it every day since the battle. I still do not understand. You could have run. You could have surrendered. You could have given me and the child to the Veshrak and saved yourself. Why did you not do any of those things? Taiho was quiet for a moment. He looked out the cargo bay window at the stars. When I was very young, he said, my father told me a story. He said that long ago, our people believed that every person was born with a choice. You could live a long life by being careful, by never taking risks, by never standing up when it was dangerous. Or you could live a shorter life, but a life that meant something. A life where you stood for what was right, even when it cost you everything. He turned to face Corinne. My father asked me which life I wanted. I told him I wanted the second one. I was only 8 years old, but I knew. I knew that some things are more important than survival. Corinne was silent for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. I think I understand now, she said. Your people are not strong because of your bodies. You are not powerful because of your technology. You are dangerous because of your hearts. Because you believe in things. Because you will die for things that do not benefit you at all. Maybe, Taiho said. Or maybe we are just too stubborn to know when we should give up. Corinne smiled. It was a strange expression on her Rivik face, but it looked genuine. Either way, she said, the galaxy will never look at humans the same way again. You have changed something today, Taiho. Something that can never be unchanged. She bowed to him, the same deep bow that Gina had given. Then she turned and walked away. Taiho watched her go. Then he turned to his crew. Ready? He asked. Hana nodded. Suho grunted. Bora bounced on her feet with excitement. Then let us fly. The old cargo ship lifted off from Corinth 7 and turned toward the stars. It was small and battered and made strange sounds. But it was theirs. Taiho sat in the pilot's chair and looked at the universe spreading out before him. So much darkness. So much unknown. So much danger waiting in the spaces between the light. But also so much possibility. So much wonder. So much yet to discover. He smiled. Where to? Hana asked. Taiho thought about it. Then he shrugged. Somewhere interesting, he said. And they flew on into the endless stars, carrying with them a story that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The story of the human who made his stand. The end.